On the first video of this series, I was doing the rods up here. I balanced the rods so they were all a matching set. And you're going to ask me why I didn't use the old rods, because I did say it, but I edited it out for some bizarre reason. The rods on a TDI, on a 300 TDI, are particularly difficult to replace the little end bushing. Now it seems kind of strange, but it's true, because you see it's on an angle like that. Well, that's no big deal, but I took these down to my machine shop that doesn't do engines, if you see what I mean, my regular machine shop, and see if he could put me bushings in here. So I bought him a set. But the problem was he couldn't hone them properly. He had them like a full-size bush, but because of the oil passage in here, his machine was tending to ride up to the top and cut out the oil passage instead of cutting the bottom, which is more solid. That was a problem, and what he said was these really need clamping and line boring, you know, with a miller or something like that, and then finishing it off with a horn, because there's quite a bit of material to take out of there. You can't just push a bushing and expect the pin to go through. We need to change these pins for several reasons. First of all, they're worn out, but I want you to see there. You can probably see there. Let me turn the light a bit. You see it's starting to crack. Now this engine's done an awful lot of miles, and you'd be probably thinking, oh well, that's just the seam, because they roll these bushes, they don't just make them like that. But if we look here, see that bit just in there? That's the joint of the bush. So these had cracked, which is not good. It's a shame really, because they're good rods. But for the price of me getting the bushes put into in a shop in Montreal, it was just as cheap to get brand new ones out of the box with the bushings in, and the specs on these are very, very good. So like I say, I haven't lightened them, I've just sort of balanced them by buffing off the top, buffing a bit of weight off the bottom, and they're good to go. So the next thing we'll have a look at is the crank. As you can see, this doesn't look quite the same as a 300 TDI crank. That's because it's forged steel crank. I believe it's forged steel. Yeah, I think it's forged steel. This is from, what's that company called? MWM. Yeah, these are made in Brazil. Now, why are we putting a new crank in? The machine shops, the Land Rover workshop manual states that you shouldn't grind the pins down less than 20,000ths of an inch. They recommended 10,000 maximum, and on the other one, the big end on one of them was quite worn, and it had gone to about 15, so it needed a 20 grind. Now the problem with that was that we were in a bit of a dilemma, because Land Rover state 10, but the machine shop said, oh well, we can do it, but we can't get the bearings in for another 4 weeks. Dilemma. So I contacted Ashcroft and we got a new crank, because this was here in a few days, and although it was twice the price of a Chinese crank, I far trust the stuff that's from Brazil that was put into engines anyway on the factory than something from China. Yeah, it's getting to be a real international engine, because the rods are made in India, the crank's made in Brazil. I don't know where all the rest is. Oh, the cylinder head's made in Spain. Anyway, the nice thing is about these cranks is they're already pre-balanced, and you can see the holes here where they've been balanced up. So that's good, so we don't have to rebalance it. The machining is very, very good, and that should last an awful long time. I know it's an expense that you don't normally have. Usually the cranks on the 300 TDI are exceptionally good. But as I mentioned before, I think this engine's done an awful lot of miles. But with a new crank in, it'll last forever, really, with regular nice clean oil changes. So that's another piece of the jigsaw. Let's push put that up there, and let's not push it off the bench, and let's see something else that's interesting. This is going to be a nice rebuild, but what gaskets am I going to use? Well, as you can see here, I'm using Britrest gaskets, but I'm not going to use all of them, and I'll tell you for the reason why. And why I'm not using OEM pane gaskets. The OEM pane gaskets were horrendously priced, and all it is a piece of flat paper, and you punch out, the gaskets are partially stamped out and you have to pull them apart yourself. And the paper is no different to these really when you think about it. In fact, I think these are a bit thicker, which is not too bad. But I'm not going to use all of them. So let me open the gasket set and I'll show you why. Open them from the back, not the front, because you can cut through your gaskets. Now, oil seals, I've got OEM ones in the kit. They don't look too bad. Again, one of those things, they're not marked by any manufacturer. They'll do at a pinch, but I'd rather prefer to put the OEM ones in, so that's out. The actual paper gaskets themselves are not too bad. It comes with a rear crank seal, you know, for the crankshaft seal. And this is in like thicker paper. Now I'm in a dilemma whether to use this, because I've already bought an OEM one, which is a metal one with a finish on. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But really, the quality of the paper, from what I can feel, is actually quite good. And also they're already pre-stamped out. So I'm going to leave those in a packet to keep them clean. It's got, for some bizarre reason, they always put 2p gaskets in. I don't know why. I've got quite a collection of those now. These are the metal gaskets. One's for the front. Wait a minute. That's for the front cover, where your tensioner goes on. And this one here is for your exhaust gas recirculation. Again, we've got two big gaskets. And there's one other thing I like about these. The gasket for the front cover is quite thick. And the problem is with the TDIs is they seem to leak around this bottom corner. You know, you get oil leaks and you think it's from the oil pan, but it actually, or the sump, it actually isn't. It's from here. So you've got to make sure you've got bags of sealer around there and make sure it all squidges out. Front timing cover, well, it's already got pre-sealer on. I don't know, because it's not going to stop anything. So let's put these to one side and have a look at these, because this is what lets Land Rover down, these Britrest gaskets down. The L seals or T seals I never use. I fill up the cavities with silicone, with RTV, you know, the one that holds the oil pan on. Never need them, waste of time. Let's just have a look at these. So you've got a selection of O-rings here. That's for your crankshaft. Lord knows what they're for. There's a little seal here that goes on your timing cover. I'll show you that later, but that's kind of important. We need that. There's little O-rings here, which I have no idea, I can't remember where they go, but this is what I wanted to show you. Again, Britrest let themselves down. Grab a magnet. See? Those three washers are steel with copper coating. These two are not. So, fortunately, I already have sets of O-rings, copper rings. I'll show you. This is my washer collection. These are all leftover bits from other jobs, but none of these in here are steel coated, so I always have a few on hand. And I have another box. This is like my assorted box, a bit dusty, should get the cleaners in, but this is my assorted box, but I have actually copper washers by number, so that's a bit of a letdown. Otherwise, not a bad set. Now I'll put those away and let's have a look at the headset. I know you shouldn't open gaskets before you use them, but in this case I'll make an exception. And again, I chose the Britrest set over a Payne one. We've got reasonable quality gaskets here. I couldn't see any difference in these at all. Everything's there. That's your sort of O-rings and your valve cover seals. I won't open those up yet. Valve stem seals. The head's already built up, so we don't need those. The rubber gasket. There's no difference between an OEM one and a Payne one. I've never found any difference. You know, they're all the same. The only difference is these gaskets here, and they look pretty much similar to an OEM set. And you can see that these pieces here are raised on a standard manifold backing. The only thing I don't like about Land Rover designed gaskets and manifolds is they're particularly weak here, just here, because with the expansion and contraction these gaskets break, and this is where they always break, and you lose power out of it because this is the intake, so you've got air pressure coming out of there, up to 1 bar pressure, and it can force air through there and you lose power. You don't know where they're going. I don't know why they couldn't have made a better quality gasket, but they don't. So let's have a look at these bad boys here. These I'll try not to cut your finger off. See what's in these washers. Now what we've got here, we've got an assortment. We've got washers. We've got washers inside a washer. Oh no, that's an injector washer. Sometimes when they stamp them out, they stamp one washer on top of another. And as you know, sometimes you get washers for jobs, and you wonder what the hell they do, because there's no list on the packets to say where they go. Now these are injector washers, but if you noticed, there's no washers for the spill return. Why don't they do that? It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. These two here, no idea. These, well, we'll work out where those three go as we go along. So let's get the magnet out of truth. Now I've put it on cardboard because obviously I've got a steel bench and I don't want it to stick to the bench. So here we go. Oh. That's why your injectors leak. You cannot compress steel. I was so pleased you saw that, because that's why these won't compress, if you see what I mean. Copper will, but they're just steel. Junk. Now these little aluminium washers, are they aluminium or steel? Steel. Kaput. And these three amigos here, steel. So the washer sets in Land Rover are from Britpart are absolute cack. They're not worth fitting, but the rest of them are. The thing is, you'll pay nearly 3-4 times for a gasket set from Payne or OEM ones. Are they worth it? The German ones are good, but again, they're kind of pricey. But we're only talking about bits of paper and things like that, and bits of rubber. I mean, you can't go wrong with making that, surely. So I'm going to just replace all those washers there, all these things. Washers are pretty cheap, and of course doing these sort of jobs all day long, you tend to know these things, and it's perhaps something that you wouldn't have known. So I think that will wrap that video up here for the first part of what I'm going to use.